Welcome to This Year and Beyond, the unofficial AmeriCorps podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Klein.
Hey everyone. To start off this episode, I just wanted to say that if you like what you hear, let me know what you think. Head over to thisyearandbeyond.com and send me a message, or connect with me over Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you moved on from that stipend life enough, please consider becoming a patron of the audio arts by donating a little money each month to keep the podcast up and running. So head over to patreon.com and search for This Year and Beyond to become a patron today. Subscribers will get a sneak peek of episodes the day before they come out, and more fun things are to come as more folks donate. So in today's episode, I have two-term AmeriCorps NCCC alum Adam Greenberg. Adam served as a Class 14 Corps Member and a Class 18 Team Leader. He's lived and worked all over the United States and abroad, and it all started with NCCC. So Adam, welcome to This Year and Beyond.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Let's just, get into it. You are, like I said, an AmeriCorps NCCC Corps Member alum, and you are also a team leader. Let's go back to the beginning of the origin stories. What was going through your head and in your life that made you decide to pursue NCCC as an option?
Yeah, well, I was about to graduate from university. When I graduated, I thought, I don't have this debt. I want to do interesting, meaningful work. I want to, join the Peace Corps. And it was in looking into the Peace Corps that I discovered AmeriCorps. And I said, you know what, before going abroad, I should first learn about the issues and see what's going on in my own country first. So it was a pretty easy decision to go into NCCC after graduating.
What made you view the world through that lens? I guess what about domestic service drew you toward NCCC rather than to do Peace Corps? What made that decision for you?
I was always interested in the Peace Corps and in international work, and I still am, which has led me to where I am now, which is about to join the Peace Corps 10 years later. But back then, I thought, before going abroad, I should learn about what's going in our own country, and we have plenty of issues that require some service too.
Yeah, it seems like you were able to address a wide range of issues during your term. Your team served with Habitat for Humanity in both Santa Fe and New Orleans, served as student teachers in Biloxi, and at a senior center and neighborhood watch program in Montana. What were you able to get out of those experiences?
It was an incredible year. I had a wonderful team, worked with great people. The projects were interesting and very varied. It wasn't just, as you mentioned, habitat building and manual labor, but it was also student teaching. So the variety of NCCC was really interesting. As far as impactful projects, I would say that, helping rebuild houses with Habitat in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, and this was in 2008, so it was 3 years after the storm, but yet it was still a mess, still had a lot of work to be done. Other Corps members who might have worked down in New Orleans, a lot of us did, might remember Miss Margaret on Desire Street. The people that we worked with and helping them rebuild their homes, that made an impact on me.
Yeah, what particularly about the folks that you served, the community that you served, really stood out to you?
Just the way that we all came together to participate in helping rebuild a house for a family. Miss Margaret, as I remember, many of her family lived on this particular street. So there's a real sense of seeing the direct impact of our work while working alongside the families together, and feeling like the efforts that we were part of were contributing to something larger than myself, as the cliche goes, but it's true.
Yeah, I think cliches are there for a reason, because there's something there that keeps them in all of our minds at all times, where it's like, oh yeah, that's a great way of wording that.
Right.
I think that New Orleans is a place that a lot of NCCC alum can connect to. I think there's so many of us that served either in New Orleans directly or the Gulf Coast in general, particularly after Katrina. Had you spent any time in that region of the United States before you became a Corps member?
I went to school in Miami, so I was down in the Gulf region, but no, I was not in in New Orleans specifically.
In New Orleans, I have a couple of friends that live down in New Orleans now. It's such like a hotbed of AmeriCorps alum, particularly I think folks that served out of the southern region now. A lot of them tend to stick around that city, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I have some friends from my TL year who are now down in New Orleans.
Yeah, so there's that service aspect of AmeriCorps, that you're out there, serving these communities, going in there and being able to just do some good work. But at the same time, I think that it's often forgotten that there is that aspect of service of you getting something from it, whether, that's a good feeling or a belly full of warm, delicious Southern meals or whatever that looks like.
Right.
What did you get out of the experience? How did you grow personally and professionally as a Corps member?
Well, professionally, my Corps member year set me off on an incredible path through my 20s. I'm 32 now, and I'm grateful that I can look back on my 20s and see this decade in which I was able to travel with intention through work with meaning. I feel really fortunate to be able to say that, and I think it's time that we make it possible for more young people to be able to say the same. So, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of reforming student loan debt and other issues that we have to make these kinds of service opportunities accessible for more people. Yeah,
I agree. I would love it if everyone was able to have the opportunity to serve. And unfortunately, there's just so many barriers to access that being able to serve really comes with a lot of privilege. But anyway, what did you end up doing after your term was over?
After AmeriCorps and NCCC, NCCC being a cross-country national service road trip, right? If you boil it down to a casual essence, traveling in the country in a 15-passenger van with other young people and engaged in service projects really excited me. So after AmeriCorps, I discovered the opportunity to work with an environmental nonprofit called BioTour. And this was just a bunch of young people who bought 2 school buses at auction, 2 39-foot yellow Bluebird 1989 school buses, and converted them to run on recycled waste vegetable oil. We put solar panels on the roof. We took all the seats out of the bus and converted it into a livable space. And we traveled the country giving presentations at high schools and colleges and community events about renewable energy and encouraging people to vote in the 2008 election with clean energy in mind. And I never would have done that or thought to live on a bus on the campaign trail if I hadn't been, also traveling in a 15-passenger van maybe the year before that.
Totally. AmeriCorps can normalize a lot of really weird things, but I mean, at the same time, it opens so many doors. Like for you, the BioTour and the slew of other things you did between your Corps member and team leader year. I mean, you were an Obama White House intern. You worked at Tom's Shoes and a community center in California. You started a name your own price iPhone screen repair business in Denver and worked as a rock climbing and ropes course facilitator in New Hampshire. How did being an NCCC Corps member set you up for success at all those things?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of those things are variations on challenging myself. And, I've always been sort of entrepreneurial. So starting my own iPhone screen repair business was part of that challenge. But in terms of working at Tom's or BioTour or the White House, it stems from NCCC, which is that I sought impactful, interesting experiences where I could be part of something that I felt was meaningful and larger than myself.
Can you tell me a little bit more about, I think it's fascinating that you were able to do an internship at the White House under, President Obama. How were you able to get that position?
Yeah, it's sort of a funny story. When I was at Tom's Shoes, in the spring of 2009, Obama had just been elected, and my grandma said to me, she's like, Obama's just been elected. You should work with him. And I thought, Grandma, that's great, but that sounds ridiculous. I appreciate the sentiment, and my first thought was, who becomes a White House intern? I don't know. My family is not connected to DC politics in any way. I didn't work in the Obama campaigns explicitly. But, I thought that sounds crazy. And if it sounds crazy to me to apply to be a White House intern, then it probably sounds crazy to many other people too, which means that they are not applying. So I should apply, basically, is what I thought. I kind of used this reverse psychology on myself to say, yeah, a lot of people think it's crazy. I think it's crazy. No one's applying because of that. So I'm going to apply.
And then you got it. You're crazy enough to get it.
And I got lucky.
Yeah. What exactly did you end up doing while you were there?
Sure. So I worked at the Council on Environmental Quality. Specifically, I did copywriting on a report entitled Recovery Through Retrofit, which was part of Vice President Biden's middle class task force and his plan to allocate funds from the 2009 Recovery and Reinvestment Act towards renewable energy and green jobs incentives.
And so just end up writing a lot, or making a lot of connections, or doing research? What did that look like?
Yeah, it was definitely a mix of research and proofreading and editing. My office at the time was actually in a bit of flux. Our advisor, Van Jones, he just left the Council on Environmental Quality. And so we were without an advisor for a short term. And so we were getting our footing at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that sounds like a really great and unique and, once in a lifetime opportunity. But to get back to AmeriCorps stuff, what made you decide to go back and serve as a team leader with NCCC after, 4 years had passed since you were a Corps member?
Well, I thought, after the White House, I thought, you know what, I think I want to still thinking about the Peace Corps. But then I thought, before going abroad and maybe managing any projects alone with the Peace Corps, perhaps I should learn how to manage a team of young people first. So I thought that, serving with NCCC again and being a team leader would be a good learning experience, a good challenge. And I'm really glad I did it.
So your teams you were all over the Pacific region. So Jackson, Wyoming, a couple projects in Oregon, Sacramento, and working in for Habitat for Humanity and preparing a summer camp. What did you learn or gain from that management experience? Were you able to find what you were looking for out of that?
Yeah, I was looking for the challenge of what it would be like to lead other young people. And in particular in NCCC, as you know, it's a group of your peers, 18 to 24 years old. As a team leader, I was 26 at the time, so I was older than my team. But still, this is your peer group. So learning how to find the balance between, being that intermediary between your site sponsor and your team, but also managing your team in a way in which you can all work and live functioning well together. It's tricky. It's a hard balance to find sometimes.
Do you think you're able to find that balance?
I think we found that balance. Yeah. That's not to say that it wasn't without its challenges, as every team leader experiences. The slogan of the Peace Corps is that it's the toughest job you'll ever love, but I believe it actually could also apply to being an NCCC team leader.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges and its successes from your team leader year?
As far as the challenges that we had, some of the projects sometimes weren't a favorite of some Corps members. Not everybody really loves the projects that you're doing all the time. So finding a way to keep team morale up when a project was perhaps a little monotonous. That was something that you learn from. But in general, we had a lot of success. I was really proud of my team. We had a good time. We used to I think a lot of teams sort of have, NCCC is weird, and a lot of teams find ways to play games with each other. And our team used to find a way in which if you ate a banana, you would try to give your peel to another teammate in a sneaky way. And then they would have to throw out the banana peel. And it was a stupid, silly game, but, it was a fun thing that we did.
Wait, you're saying NCCC is a weird thing and is an incubator for weird, silly games like hiding banana peels on other people.
That's just the start of it.
So after, being a team leader, doing that TL year, you were able to travel internationally then. So you taught English in South Korea for a while. You backpacked around India and Southeast Asia on less than $15 a day. You used your Ed Award for a 2-month Knowles course. You went to Japan. You lived in Australia. Do you think that prepared you to make that leap internationally?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could look back on every career move or change or travel that I've done over the past 10 years and see how it was a very natural next step in the progression of my life, whether it be through personal travel or, various socially oriented career moves. After NCCC, my TL year, I was still thinking about the Peace Corps. And I decided, you know what, before 2 years abroad, because I had never lived abroad, I had never been abroad before then, I thought, why don't I commit to teach English in South Korea for 1 year? And that 1 year quickly turned into 2.5 years. And by that point, my girlfriend and I, we were backpacking. We spent 6 months backpacking. And as you said, we did it on less than $15 per day. We are both frugal, something that you learn in NCCC. You become sort of a minimalist. And that's really one of the great joys of embracing that lifestyle of, seeking impactful experiences. They can be done. You can travel long-term abroad for less money, perhaps, than even rent in many U.S. cities. You just got to know how to be frugal.
So through all those experiences traveling abroad, what do you feel was the difference between, serving and traveling internationally versus all the service and travel you were able to do domestically?
Well, I definitely think they are connected. One thing that really hit home for us while abroad is that, people would ask us, where are you from? They first actually would ask, are we Canadian? Because a lot of Americans don't travel abroad. I mean, and understandably, a lot of young Americans have a lot of student loan debt, as we touched on before. So a lot of young people, a lot of Europeans take gap year programs. But when people would ask us, where are we from? We'd say the United States. Oftentimes, the first response was, oh, Obama. And what I realized is that traveling abroad, there is a service component, and you are a representative of the United States when you're abroad. And I had a lot of great conversations, when we were in Australia, just learning about things that Australia did in regards to gun control. There are shootings every day in the United States, it seems like. And in 1996, Australia had a massacre, and Australia instituted some generally pretty common sense gun reforms. They had a buyback program. They didn't say we're taking your guns, but they offered to buy back assault weapons. And they haven't had a massacre in over 21 years. It's amazing. And I don't want to get political with you, but just having these conversations with other people abroad, seeing this, for instance, like seeing this election this past year while living abroad, after having, worked a little bit in DC myself and having been so close to the political scene for a while, and then being outside of it, looking in, it really hits home to you how important it is that we are the representatives that we want to be to the countries around the world.
It's interesting that you talked about being a representative, because I think back, I never really had that self-awareness to that extent until I was in NCCC, and, you're told whenever you're wearing the A that, like, you need to represent it in a really positive and meaningful way. Like, we're there to serve the community. We can't go running around looking like idiots, like wearing our A out to the bar and things like that. Like, the A represents something a little bit bigger than us as individuals. And I'm someone who's never really traveled abroad, so I never really thought about, how we're there's the news and the media and all that kind of stuff that's able to represent what's going on in one way, but there's, I think, a lot more power in those one-on-one interactions of like, oh, I met someone from this other country and actually had a real conversation that becomes like, instead of, the politicians and the flag and, all the America stuff that gets thrown around out there. It's like, oh no, I know Kyle, I know Adam, like these are real people and I can make that connection is huge.
Absolutely. And that's why I feel like, joining the Peace Corps now, I feel like there's perhaps no more important time than right now to ensure that decent Americans continue representing the United States abroad.
Yeah, you were looking into the Peace Corps way back when you graduated college and ended up doing NCCC instead. What made you decide to circle back around and do it now after all these years?
Well, as I said earlier, all of those career moves and travel, every bit of it felt like a very natural next step in the progression of my life so far. And after being abroad now for 4 years, committing to serve in one location for 27 months, bring it on. It doesn't sound so daunting to me anymore,
Do you know what you'll be doing?
We will be aquaculture volunteers. So we'll be in a rural village and fish farming, essentially, helping locals not only with their fish ponds, but also any income-generating activities that we can assist them with. Whatever the community decides they want help with. So the Peace Corps has, obviously changed and adapted as the world has since it was started in the 60s. Today it's not uncommon that volunteers have an apartment or internet access. The Peace Corps Zambia page specifically describes Zambia as the quintessential Peace Corps experience, meaning that we'll be living in a dirt hut, essentially, with no running water and no electricity. So it will be a challenge, and it won't be easy, but it will definitely be interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be really interesting, and you'll be able to do a lot of really good, cool, amazing stuff and come back with a lot of stories. So I wish you the best of luck with the Peace Corps, but before I let you go, I almost forgot to ask about the AmeriCorps alums Kiva group you started after you were a Corps member. Could you talk a little bit about what Kiva is and how you got involved?
Oh, sure. Yeah, thanks for asking about that. So Kiva, if your listeners aren't familiar, Kiva is a lending platform, a website in which anyone can contribute as little as $25 to people around the world, people who are looking for capital, and it could be individuals in countries in which they're looking to purchase a freezer for their small business, or expand their cell phone services. In a lot of countries, a cell phone is actually incredibly useful, not just for communication, but also for banking. So there are a lot of small businesses and families that could use assistance throughout the world, and Kiva facilitates access to capital for those people who don't often have access to traditional banking or financial mechanisms. In 2008, after my AmeriCorps year, I saw that Kiva had opened up the opportunity to create lending teams. So I created an AmeriCorps alums lending team on Kiva, and it's been amazing what's happened since. I mean, AmeriCorps members have since loaned out over $32,000 in the years since, and the thing about Kiva too is actually when you lend your money, I didn't mention earlier, but you're repaid, right? So you lend out $25, it might be a 6-month loan, and then at the end of the 6 months, you get your $25 back. You can either re-lend it to someone else or withdraw it. But the AmeriCorps group has contributed a lot and helped make a difference for a lot of people. So I appreciate everyone who's participated in the AmeriCorps group. And if anyone would like to join the Kiva group, we would definitely welcome you.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that in the description of this podcast and put it up on the Facebook and the Twitter and all those crazy social media stuff that's out there. So The name of this podcast is This Year and Beyond, based on the line in the pledge, I will take this commitment with me this year and beyond. And it's a great way to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great name for the podcast. I saw that. I was like, yeah, definitely. Good name.
Well, thank you. I think a compliment about the podcast is as good a place for us to end as any. So thank you, Adam, so much for sharing your story. It was great learning more about your service journey, and best of luck with your travels with Peace Corps.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Kyle. I really appreciate it. It was nice talking with you.
Hey everybody, it's me, Kyle, again. First off, I want to say thank you so much to Carrie. We've been chatting, every other week about some cool projects that may or may not be in the works. And I just want to say thank you so much for being such an inspirer, such an inspiration and motivator. It's been really great chatting with you. I just got off Google Hangout with her, and I wanted to tell her thank you so much over the podcast. Also, I want to say thank you to everyone that's been listening over the last month. I've finally been able to track downloads, and there's a lot of people out there listening, which is really terrifying and cool and strange. So please, I know I said at the top of the show, reach out to me, send me some feedback, just say hi. I really appreciate it. I love hearing from all y'all. And until next week, thank you for listening.